मुअज़्ज़ज़ सामीन और नाज़रीन, रेलू कट्टा के एक और एपिसोड में आप सब लोगों को हम खुशामदीद कहते हैं। जैसे कि आपको पता है कि रेलू कट्टा एक क्रिकेट पॉडकास्ट है जिसके ऊपर हम क्रिकेट के हवाले से मुख्तलिफ टॉपिक्स को लेके बातचीत करते हैं। आजकल चूँकि क्रिकेट वर्ल्ड कप चल रहा है और हमारे अक्सर मौज़ूआत क्रिकेट वर्ल्ड कप के इर्द-गिर्द घूमते हैं। तो इसी तरह आज के एपिसोड में भी हम अपने एक मेहमान को लेकर आए हैं जिनके साथ हम अभी इस वक़्त जो जारी है इंग्लैंड और वेल्स के अंदर क्रिकेट वर्ल्ड कप, उसके हवाले से कुछ बातचीत करेंगे। हमारे मेहमान सुभाष हैं, जो कि @क्रिकेट काउच के नाम से ट्वीट करते हैं और 81 ऑल आउट के नाम से एक वेबसाइट भी चलाते हैं। अपनी वेबसाइट पे सुभाष आर्टिकल्स भी लिखते हैं और पॉडकास्ट भी करते हैं। सुभाष आजकल अमेरिका की रियासत पेंसिल्वेनिया में मुक़ीम है और वहाँ के क्रिकेटिंग कल्चर के बारे में और क्रिकेटिंग स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में भी काफ़ी वसी नॉलेज रखते हैं। तो सुभाष, वेलकम टू द शो।
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you very much for finding time for us.
No worries.
ऑलराइट, और हमारे साथ पैनल में आज मौजूद हैं सुललित बंदियोपध्य भी और वक़ास तौफ़ीक़ भी। तो सबसे पहले हम बातचीत का आगाज़ करेंगे सुभाष के साथ और जैसे कि आपको पता है कि वर्ल्ड कप चल रहा है, तो हम पहले सुभाष से जो है वो वर्ल्ड कप के हवाले से थोड़ी-सी गुफ्तगू करेंगे। So Subhash, the World Cup is going on. It is almost getting towards the end of it. The final is tomorrow. So all the build up before the World Cup and all the league stage and all the matches that have been played and all the part that the rain had to play in the World Cup and everything is now, getting to an end. So how do you see the whole campaign, especially we can take it from the Indian fans' perspective as well as a neutral observer, because you do not only represent Indian fan, but you also represent a neutral person who is looking at the whole campaign from a different perspective.
I mean, just to clarify, I am an India fan to the extent that, I learned my cricket in India and I used to support India as well. But it's actually more fun not to tie yourself to one team, but actually watch the cricket that's happening. Having said that, the tournament itself, if England go on to beat New Zealand, as their current form indicates, it would be that we started the tournament with England as the favorites and finishing the tournament with England winning it. So if you had gone into a coma right after England played Pakistan in that 5-match ODI series before the World Cup, which England won 4-0, and woke up on Sunday, July 14th at 11 p.m. England time, and you see England celebrating, you'd say, yeah, I guess I haven't missed much.
Okay.
But the beauty is that even though it's a cricket World Cup format, went back to the 1992 format where every team plays every other team, and you have had 45 round robin games, and some of them washed out by rain, some of them quite non-competitive games, but there were some hugely competitive games and interesting games and few upsets. And nobody would, if you're the guy waking up from coma, you would never believe that England were almost on the threshold of not even making it to the semi-final.
That's true.
So, and then considering how dominant India were in the round robin stage, that they are not even in the final. There are a lot of different strands within the World Cup, but if there's a coma guy, or if you wake up, or in 40 years from now, you look back and like, yeah, England were the dominant team of 2019 and they won the World Cup. So that would be the short summary of this World Cup. However, now as we remember how Pakistan won in 92, or India won in 2011, or Australia in 2015, there is a lot of storylines, the ups and downs in a long tournament like this, that the teams they have to get lucky with form, they have to get lucky with the injuries, then they can actually peak towards the knockout stages and actually have two really good games and win the tournament. So for all we know, it could be New Zealand winning tomorrow.
Yeah. So if you're a coma guy, it will be a shock for you and you will go back to coma again.
Yeah.
That's true. I wanted to ask you this question as well when you were saying when you were building up for this comma guy. Okay, he will wake up at 11 p.m. English time, and he will know that England has won the World Cup and he's celebrating, but he will be a little bit surprised to see New Zealand as the other finalist.
Yeah, he would be surprised, but if he retains any memory from 2015, he would say, okay, they were the finalists in 2015 as well. I guess it's not that surprising that they made it in, but even though they were not playing at home like they did in 2015. And also the fact that after Australia, I think New Zealand is the second most successful team in terms of number of wins in a World Cup, in the 12 editions. So, whether if you remember 2015 or all the 12 World Cups, then it is not that illogical that New Zealand is there. Sure, they're not as big a team as Australia or India or Pakistan. They don't have the fan base or the player base to support that team. And cricket is not obviously the number one sport in New Zealand either. Despite all that, they stay competitive. They have terrific players, very good system, great skills, and they just produce the goods when it comes to tournament formats. So it's not that surprising they are there. It's a very slight surprise, but it's not a great surprise.
True that. Great. So let's break it down into individual teams and start looking at. Okay, we talked about England, that they are in the final, and it is not a surprise they are in the final. Although there were some ups and downs, there were some upsets in the group stage. They were on the verge of elimination. But there are some other interesting stories that have been, let's say, that have developed during the World Cup. For example, South Africa. I mean, South Africa, they were out of sorts. They were outplayed by all the other teams in the World Cup.
They were also out of players. They were missing obviously AB de Villiers, who retired from the game, and losing someone like that. You can say AB de Villiers is the Vivian Richards of this generation. He's that good. He's maybe better than Vivian Richards even, as just pure cricketing skill, talent, imagination, and the effect he had on the opposition, and the effect he had on his teammates with his not just batting but fielding and everything else that he did. So he's one of the most outstanding talents to ever play cricket, really. So to lose someone like that and not have a suitable replacement, you're never going to find another AB de Villiers.
That's for sure.
He's a once in a lifetime, once in a generation type player. So South Africa needed to have somebody or two people basically combining together to match match AB de Villiers' production, and they never could. They tried JP Dumini. Well, he came back into the side. David Miller was completely out of sorts. They expected that these two veterans could combine and produce or offset the loss of AB de Villiers. And on top of it, and that did not happen, and that screwed them over badly. Hashim Amla, after he was hit on the head in the opening game of the World Cup by Jafra Archer, was never the same. He seemed to be completely out of sorts. They lost Dale Steyn to injury prior to the World Cup. They lost Lungi Ngidi for 3 matches after the first one. 2 matches he played, and then he was gone for 3 matches. And Rabada seemed to be slightly off boil, or even if he played really well, the other teams knew that he was the biggest threat in South Africa, so they kind of played him off. So basically, South Africa were short on good batsmen up the order. They were missing the key cog in the middle order. They didn't have any finishing power. They didn't have their ace fast bowler, and their second ace fast bowler was off the boil. That's something. I mean, they had way too many holes in the side to kind of put any kind of performance. And it was surprising that finally, they replaced Hashim Amla with Markram, and Quinton de Kock could then again play freely. Because what Hashim Amla was doing was he was holding one end up. There was no strike rotation. There were other batsmen like Quinton de Kock, who wants to face the deliveries, kept getting stuck, that he could get no flow in his game.
Yeah.
But with Markram, and they had a very good opening partnership against Australia, and then Faf du Plessis has his first 100 of the tournament, and Rassie van der Dusen has a 95 or 96, and they put a very good score, and then actually managed to defend it against Australia. So, they had a pretty shitty campaign, but they've ended it on a high note. But
Yeah, they
they
ended
have
it in a
they
high
have a
note.
lot of they have a lot of problems to sort through.
They actually do have a lot of problems to sort. I was also thinking to ask you, because we are talking about South Africa, we can take it a step further and not only look at the ODI performance this World Cup around, but there is a lot happening in South African cricket. For example, they did not get the Super Sport for the broadcast rights. They had to go to South African Broadcasting Channel, their state-owned TV channel,
Mm-hmm.
to look for some funds for broadcasting rights. They actually have this policy that they cannot have more than a certain number of players from the Afrikaner background. So all those things, do you think that all those things are actually have a very negative impact on South African cricket in general?
No, that's the short answer. Obviously, who gets the broadcasting rights, who doesn't get the broadcasting rights, does not have any impact on the team itself and their performances. In terms of the selection of, to have a minimum number of players of non-white background to be in the team, I think that rule was relaxed for the World Cup, actually. So that also did not have any impact. It's true. What is having major issue with South Africa are people moving to England, and via the Kolpak rule, and
Kolpak,
becoming county professionals. The recent years they've lost Colin Ingram, they've lost Kyle Abbott, they've lost
Olivier.
Olivier, and so that keeps happening. That's a problem for them, and they're not replenishing that loss quickly. They're not offsetting it fast enough. And every team goes through that cycle. Every 8 years or so, except for maybe Australia, every other team goes through the up and down every 8 years. So it does. Australia seemed to
Yeah.
produce. They had a 20-year run where they produced great cricketers, and they still have few great cricketers in their side. Stephen Smith and Mitchell Stark and David Warner and Pat Cummins, Glenn Maxwell.
Yeah.
But other teams seem to struggle. And it's not that hard to see when you look at the table of rankings. If you see India, England, Australia, where the player base is much larger, and the systems are good, and they have the money to invest in their systems. So all that matters. And obviously, England, Australia, and India have the most money in the world cricket today. They have the most robust systems. They play the most number of test matches of all the 12 test playing nations. These are the three that play the most test matches every year. They play pretty much most cricket, and so which means they can invest in the domestic system, and so they always are going to have a pretty strong. Well, not so much England because soccer takes over there, but Australia and India are going to have pretty strong pipeline of players coming through.
Yeah, for
Which is
sure.
not the case. Which is not the case with South Africa. South Africa, they tried to do a T20 tournament, global T20 tournament. They've tried it for 3 years in a row, and none of the times it has worked. They want to, because that's another reason why they're losing players. Because if you play for the South African national team, then you're losing out on the opportunity to play, say, in the IPL or in the PSL or in the Big Bash, whatever. So they want to try to hold a tournament at home so that they can show their own players, you know what, you don't have to go play other tournaments. You play in this, you get paid, and then you play for South African national team. But they haven't been able to find broadcasters and sponsors to pull that off. They have tried, but hasn't worked yet. Hopefully, it works for their
Yeah,
own sake.
well, they did that Mzansi T20 League the last year, but it does not look like it's gonna continue as IPL because it was, well, declared just break even. It wasn't as a huge success after
Yeah,
all.
I mean, they haven't. You have to attract bigger broadcasters, and you have
Yeah,
to attract bigger sponsors, and you have to attract marquee names. Uh,
yeah, bigger
that's
names. That's
yeah,
true.
that that hasn't happened
Right.
yet.
So coming back to the World Cup once again,
Mhm.
because what was it before I go to Sularit and he has some questions to ask you? I want to ask you this. What do you think was the biggest surprise? Was it Afghanistan fighting each and every game and getting closer to, to win the games against India and Pakistan? Or do you think that Bangladesh winning those crucial games, it was bigger surprise?
I I thought there were four, maybe five surprises total.
Okay.
One West Indies beating Pakistan. That was a huge surprise
Yeah, it
because
was.
that was a huge, especially the way they beat Pakistan. Because Pakistan, they played England. England was the number one ranked side in the world, and Pakistan pretty much went toe to toe in four games. England scored 380, Pakistan scored 350. They lost all
Yeah,
four
yeah.
games, but they stayed relatively competitive. You could see the difference between the England team and the Pakistan team. England, very dominant bowling, batting, fielding. Pakistan, a reasonable
Almost
mid-table.
okay.
No, they're
Yeah.
they're, they're a mid-table team. They're not number 9 or 10.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in West Indies, who barely qualified to the World Cup, um, they finished second in the World Cup qualifiers, I believe, in Zimbabwe against Afghanistan,
And they
and
lost to Afghanistan in the
yeah,
final.
twice. They lost to Afghanistan twice, once in the final and
The group
once in the group
stage.
stage, right? And
Yeah.
they get in and then blow Pakistan away, which basically ended up hurting Pakistan qualifying to the semi-final. So that was one major surprise. Another surprise was Pakistan beating England, and another one was Sri Lanka beating England, and another one was Afghanistan almost beating India. Um, and given the how the tournament went on, South Africa beating Australia. Uh, those were
Oh yeah.
those were the main surprises for me. And regarding Afghanistan, they're a decent team, but they're not as good as say Sri Lanka or Pakistan on a consistent basis. They may have 1 or 2 days where they do everything correct and everything happens for them, which is what happened again for Afghanistan against India. They
Yeah.
bowled first, and Mujib got a wicket of Rohit Sharma quickly, and Virat Kohli and KL Rahul got out in their 40s and stuff, and or I think Kohli made a 50, Rahul made a 40 or something, and then they kind of with the three spinners they basically shut down the Indian middle order, and India could
Yeah.
only put up a barely competitive total. So they had toss, they had the spinners, get early wickets and put pressure and have a manageable total in front of them. They had everything going for them. So if there was going to be a day when Afghanistan was going to beat someone like India, that was the day.
That day.
And
Yes.
it's just that India had a bit more quality in their bowling lineup with Jasprit Bumrah, basically, and that killed the game.
It did indeed. Okay, so now, Sulalit, over to you. You have a couple of questions to ask.
Yes, as we were going through this World Cup journey for India, I was wondering about an aspect now that India has lost the semi-finals and couldn't make it to the final. There is a lot of chatter batter about the team composition, the team management, as often it happens after such an international stage. What is your opinion about these? That is quite common in the domestic media in India as well as also in international media. There has been a suggestion about the change of captaincy already. There has been a suggestion of which is more to do with the middle order batsman or number four batsman from the coach. What is your opinion on this, or how do you see this?
Um, all right, let's take it to the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So you had basically, if you look at the modern ODI game, there are two approaches you can play. One,
Mm-hmm.
the way England is playing, which is, be aggressive all the way through from number 1 to number 10 or 11. Everybody should be able to bat. Some lot better than others, but everybody should be able to bat. And you're going for high scores. 300 plus scores. That team is designed for that. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can go the other way, other approach, which is India's, which is more classic approach, which is that you have specialist batsmen, specialist bowlers. So technically speaking, no Rellu Kattas. Uh, right? Is my usage of Rellu Katta correct? That you have
Yeah,
specialists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
that's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay. India did not wanted to approach ODI as if they don't have any Relu Kattas. So you have specialist batsmen whose job it is to score the runs. They have specialist bowlers whose job it is to take the wickets. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. It's pretty much like a side built to play test matches, whereas England is a side that is built to play T20s. And they're both playing ODIs. That's those are the two approaches to ODI. Now, India, once they made that approach, they said we are not going to follow England's blueprint. We're going to use our own template, and this is our template. And they played that way for the last 2 years after they lost to Pakistan in the Champions Trophy in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they moved away from using Ashwin and Jadeja in ODIs as their primary spin bowlers. They moved to Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav as their primary spin bowlers with bowling wrist spin. And they've had success all over the place in Australia, South Africa, in India itself, etc., etc. So they had very good evidence of success to say that their template is going to work in England. And it was working till Shikhar Dhawan got hurt.
Mm.
Once Shikhar Dhawan got hurt, they lost their opener, which meant they have to move KL Rahul, who is hugely talented batsman, who came in at the last minute in place of Ambati Raidu, but still is a
Mm-hmm.
very good batsman. Now suddenly he goes from number 4 to number 1, and number 4 is open. So basically, they lost stability in the middle order that they've had.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, they've always been very reliant on the top three, but this time now it becomes top two because Dhawan is gone. Because if you have Dhawan, Rohit, and Virat Kohli playing, unless something like what happened in Champions Trophy 17, where all three of them are out. In this case, you would have lost all three, but still you would have had KL Rahul at number 4 instead of Rishabh Pant,
Mm.
who wasn't even the first choice, that showed up late and then started playing only 3 games earlier. So
Mm.
they got, I mean, you can't control injuries, it
Yeah,
happens.
of course.
Um,
Mm.
so to go from that to say that even it was an uncontrollable thing with injury to suddenly say, oh, the team needs a complete overhaul, and you need to change the captain, even though Kohli has the highest win-loss ratio of all Indian captains ever in ODIs. It's like 3.5. For every 3 games, 3.5 games that India wins, they lose 1 game under Virat Kohli. He's captained them for like 40 games or something like that. And before
Mm.
that, and next to him is I think Dhoni, and then Mohammad Azharuddin, so on and so forth. But to go from that to say captain needs to be changed, coach needs to go, and middle order everything needs to be completely overhauled. That is just too reactionary, and basically the people, they wanna, if they're feeling disappointed or want to show that they are disappointed, and just it's like the guys that burn effigies and throw stones. The random guys. It's like ठीक है यार, and then they'll lose their anger, walk away, and then they'll go watch some other game and forget about this happening at all.
Mm.
Whereas a cricket team does not function that way. Cricket team does not decide in the last minute who is going to win the team. It's not like apna gully. It's not gully cricket where you find players like चल तुम्हें खेलना चलो आजा. ऐसा नहीं होता है. But you have a plan, you have a approach that you decide on, and everybody buys into that, and you find the appropriate players, and you give them anywhere from 2 to 3 year run. I remember thinking back to MS Dhoni in the lead up to 2011 World Cup, which India eventually won. That he wanted players that had played at least 100 games before they played in the World Cup. So that's why they gave so much time for Rana and Munaf Patel and others. Zahir Khan was already very well experienced, and Sachin and Sehwag and Yuvraj and all that. But he wanted people to have had 100-game experience before they play a World Cup. And as it happened, India also tried to do that. Except, Ambati Raidu, I don't know what all went behind the scenes. We don't know exactly.
That's true.
You gave somebody 2 years of time and suddenly you don't even pick the guy. There must have been something going on in the background we don't know about. Except for that, they had the team lined up. They had everybody has been playing for the last 2 years together. So it's one of those. Despite all that, still they got to the semi-final, and they had a 30-minute spell. 30-minute spell from Henry and Bolt. That basically is it. So
exactly. Those, as Kohli said,
if I were an India fan, I wouldn't lose sleep over how India was knocked out of the World Cup. They finished the freaking tournament as the #1 side in the table.
Yeah, so that's the best you could get, right? In a league.
Exactly. Won 7 games, one got washed out, and they lost 1 game, and that too basically because their spinners were taken to the cleaners by Jason Roy. That's it. So if people are reacting, then they are just looking for reason to outrage and stuff. They are not actually watching the cricket.
Yeah, it's just outrageous. That's true. Right. Okay. Waqas, sitting in China, also has a couple of questions to ask. So let's bring him in.
Yeah. So, somewhat related to what you were talking about, I will ask a question. Okay. India suddenly started resting Kuldeep Yadav after he got hit out by Jason Roy and the co. So, do you think that India missed a trick there because they invested almost 2 years in his development, and after one game in the World Cup, that after that they dropped him from the squad from the important games? What do you think about that?
Okay, there are 2 ways to think about it. There are 2 line of thought to it, which is lines of thought to it, which is that they may have panicked because Kuldeep got hit, and maybe Kuldeep lost his confidence, and they saw him in the nets, yada yada yada. But seeing that they have played him for 2 years, you wouldn't think they'll make that decision lightly. Okay, so the cricketing evidence suggests that they have given Kuldeep and Chahal to bowl together, for a long time. So they wouldn't just lose confidence in players. Teams do not do that. International teams do not randomly lose confidence. It's not like your buddy that just showed up from somewhere and he played the game. You thought he was good, but then he's not good, and you're not playing him. It's not like that. These are professional players handled by professional coaches, so they don't make these decisions lightly. So if you want to give the benefit of the doubt, then you could say, well, there must be some other reason, cricketing reason. What is it? The more obvious reason, in my point of view, is that losing of Shikhar Dhawan, and that they moved KL Rahul up, which meant even if Rohit Sharma and Kohli were to have a substantial innings, they cannot really attack the bowling till much later because they're afraid of the fragility in the middle order. So which meant because they were playing 2 wrist spinners, they were playing Bumrah, they were playing Bhuvneshwar Kumar or Shami. So basically your batting stops at 7.
Yes.
Right? So they
Pandya was the last batsman.
Yeah. And especially if Shami plays, that means he's definitely stopping at 7. If Kumar plays, maybe there's a slight chance that he'll defend. So they were afraid that they're not able to get the runs when batting first, the amount of runs they I think they could or when they're chasing, that they have to go hyper conservative. So that meant Rahul going one, they're pushing punt to four. They needed somebody in the back, so which is Jadeja. You had to bring in Jadeja to fill that role. So you could say like, hey, should they have played Kuldeep Yadav instead of Chahal? And that's a fair argument. I would have played Kuldeep Yadav ahead of Chahal because I think Kuldeep is a better spinner. But they might. That is a very cricketing decision that the team makes. We are not. We do not know the exact reason, but the choice is that they were going to play one wrist spinner and Jadeja just to strengthen the batting a bit.
Yeah,
So I'm not.
that's true.
So in this case, it happened to be Kuldeep that got put on the bench. In other parallel universe, it's Chahal that sits on it. So it would be equally valid.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Right. Sulalit, you had another question regarding the Indian journey.
Yes, also in regarding to the way cricket has changed. I mean, there are many commentaries about the fact that cricket has changed from being a bowler's game back in the days to being more of a batsman game nowadays, with the rules and new regulations. But also, I mean, there are a lot of domestic tournaments, as you're mentioning, that probably South Africa doesn't have that much. But in India, for example, the IPL, or in Pakistan, the PSL, are they more comparable to the county cricket that is kind of the talent hunt thing in England? Because Ranji Trophy, for example, in India has quite gone down from producing the best of the players that go and play in the one day ODI team for India. Well, how do you see it? Because you have been quite
I
active in.
I don't think you're being fair to the Ranji Trophy system because if Ranji Trophy is a 4-day game, first class system.
Yes.
And if you look at the Indian first class team, which is the Test team, you have Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Ajinkya Rahane, for a while Murali Vijay, KL Rahul, Cheteshwar Pujara. All these guys are phenomenal performances in Ranji Trophy. They didn't just show up because they played in a tournament somewhere. These guys have put time, and like Rohit Sharma has like one of the highest averages in Ranji Trophy, as does Cheteshwar Pujara. Even Jadeja came through the Ranji Trophy system, as did Jasprit Bumrah. He came through the first class system. That's how he was spotted. Not because he was, it wasn't like, Imran Khan, took a walk in the mountains and saw a bowler and said like, "Chalo, aaja khelo." That did not happen. There are times I know PSL talent scouts go into the border areas with Afghanistan, and then they see and then say like, "Chal." You had Rehan, right? So I'm sure you guys talked about it. The talent identifying in PSL. Some of the time it happens that way. They identify players. Scouting, it happens. But in the first class team, it's very hard to say just identify talent and then tell them to come and play first class. You can ask them to play limited overs, but to play first class, it's very, very hard to just pick up somebody saying like you have the talent. Even Sachin Tendulkar, they wouldn't send him to West Indies. They said in 1989, everybody could see that he's extremely talented, and he's been playing from he was 9 or 10, and by the time he was 16, he was ready. He wanted to go to West Indies and face Malcolm Marshall and others, but the board of cricket board in India said no. You're too young, and let's say you go there and then it's too much for you. We would have completely lost you to Indian cricket. So they took the safer approach to say, you know what, we won't send you to West Indies. We'll let you play some more games, and then we'll send you to Pakistan. Even though Pakistan is also a very, very challenging side. As it turns out, it was Waqar Younis who will turn out to be one of the greatest bowlers of all time, his debut. But at the time, Waqar Younis is just as, he was only 2 years older than Sachin. Anyway, Lalit, in the sense, you are being unfair to Ranji Trophy system. However, the tournaments, you have the NatWest Blast in England, you have the PSL in Pakistan, you have the IPL, BBL, and whatnot, BPL, Sri Lanka, whatever. Those tournaments are good from the point of view of making money for the board so that they can sustain and reinvest into the system. Even if it's privately owned franchise system, they pay a certain percentage of their profits, revenues to the board. That's how they get to own the team, and the board reinvests that into their first class system. That's how it works. And so you could say, hey, is it having a lot of impact? Well, it depends on how good your first class system is again, how well spread it is, how uniform it is, how is it of good standard? For the longest time, if you wanted to look for good first class system, it was a county. It wasn't because it was in England. It was because it had players from all over the world coming and playing. You had a lot of West Indian players. Everybody played in the county system. Pakistanis played in the county system. Aussies, Indians, they all played in the county system, which is why the county system was so strong. It was producing really hardened professionals. You go play 2 seasons of county cricket and then come back and play for Pakistan or India or West Indies. You're that much better because you played against people that have done this for many years, so that you learn how to be a professional cricketer, how to take care of your own shit day in, day out. Traveling constantly because you're playing for 4-day game, 1-day stop, and then 4-day game, 1-day stop. You're just constantly moving around the country in England. It's very brutal schedule, and that's what makes you a professional. Now it's not as attractive. Even England, their test players are not coming from the county sides really. They come through the academy. They come through the England Lions tours. Alistair Cook and Josh Butler and Joe Root, Bairstow. They didn't come through the county system. Yes, they played for 2 of them played for Yorkshire and stuff, but their development was all done in the Loughborough Academy. So from that point of view, the county system is not producing or it's not doing the job it's supposed to be doing.
True. Right. Let me, Subash, let me just go back to the World Cup and ask you a couple of questions. You were naming Waqar Yunus and Bumrah, and the love of Pakistanis for bowlers and fast bowlers. What was your pick of the tournament?
What was my what?
Pick of the tournament in fast bowling department. Which bowler did you enjoy the most?
Which bowler? It's almost unfair to say this or that, because they're very different kinds of bowlers. You can take a Mitchell Starc, you can take a Bumrah, you can take a Jofra Archer, and then there were others too. You had Lockie Ferguson, you had Shaheen Afridi that for whatever reason didn't play in the few games, but when he came back, it was fantastic. And you have Rabada obviously did not produce the level we are used to. So there were plenty of fast bowlers, but these 3 would be my top 3, absolutely. And if I have to pick one, if I have to pick one because of the results, then it would be Mitchell Starc. But if I have to pick one for the pure sensation, I would pick Bumrah.
Right?
No, Bumrah, Archer. I think it's very hard to choose between those 2 because Archer, he bowls 95 miles an hour as if he's just taking a stroll on the beach. Bumrah at least, when he lands, you can see how his back foot is stomped down, and then his front leg goes up and then comes down and then braces, and then he has this catapult action with his arm, which is with a very straight arm, left arm and right arm. And you have Mitchell Starc, he's really tall, very long limbs, and he has a 3/4 action. He's bowling left arm over, so that itself is added advantage to bowl left arm over and bowl at 145. And you can see how much energy and how much effort he puts into the delivery. Same thing with Bumrah. Whereas Archer, it doesn't look like he's actually putting in the effort. That's the beauty of a genius. It's like watching Roger Federer. Roger Federer is playing phenomenal tennis. He's like Yesterday he beat Nadal, but he played such sublime tennis. It's like he's not even sweating.
Yeah, it's like
he's hitting
just for the fun, right?
unbelievable angles, and he's playing 24-shot rally, and then hitting aces and backhand cross courts, forehand winners, everything, right? And he's making it look ridiculously easy.
Easy.
That's the true definition of genius, that you see that and you think like, oh yeah, I should be able to do that. I should be able to pick up a racket, go play like Roger Federer, because he makes it look so easy. Same thing with someone like Tendulkar. When he was batting looked ridiculously easy. Or even in this World Cup, Rohit Sharma. When they say lazy elegance, I think that's what they mean, meaning phenomenal genius. I think same thing with Jofra Archer. He's a fast bowling genius. That he's gifted with some natural talents, but that doesn't automatically mean you can bowl the length and the line that you want. You have to bowl really a lot to get that kind of control. And so it's a very, very, very tough call to take between Bumrah and Archer. And for if I really, really have to make a pick, I'll pick Archer.
Archer, because also the way he bowls, as you said, is very pleasing on the eyes, and it looks good. It's very delicate.
It's just normal. Like Shoaib Akhtar. You knew he was a bowler that can bowl 95 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, because he ran for 40 yards.
Oh yeah, he did.
Like he didn't like. It's not like
ground के बाहर से भाग के आ रहा है.
भाग के आएगा. Like he's not just running; he's sprinting. He's literally. Shoaib Akhtar got pace by sprinting, additional pace from sprinting, right? Obviously, he has the hyperextended elbow, just like Malinga and Bumrah and stuff. But he used to sprint. Whereas these guys, I mean, Bumrah barely even has a run up. He's like hopping, skipping, and then Archer is like he's jogging. He's jogging, and then suddenly it's 95 miles an hour. Right? Like how? Alan Donald used to bowl, and Shane Bond, they used to bowl in the 90s, as did Dale Steyn. And you can tell these guys are really pushing their body, because fast bowling is brutal on your body, on your back, on your shoulders, on your arms, on your legs, on your ankles. It's brutal, which is why people break down. And you could see Shane Bond trying everything in his body, and then he would generate 95 miles an hour, as did Steyn, as did Alan Donald. Very, very beautiful actions, all of them. Very good rhythmic run-up, all that. And then you can say like, oh yeah, that is a fast bowler. Got a fast bowler body, fast bowler run-up, and he is trying to give everything. Whereas these guys, thin guys, kind of tall, and just not even running, and then generating such speeds, which is mind-blowing, which is beautiful. But it's a good time to be a cricket fan.
It is. It is. Yeah, cricket is more of an art now. It's beautiful to look at it on the screen. All right. Before we wind up, I just wanted to ask you a couple of more questions, very easy ones. And your spell of the tournament, which spell of the bowling you think was the best?
Spell of the tournament.
I say you will watch it. After the World Cup has ended, you will still just go to YouTube, find it out, and put it on play, and just
I mean, let's see. Fast bowler or spin? Well, I guess spinners didn't take many wickets, so basically it's going to come down to fast bowlers. For just the brutality of it, it was West Indies versus Pakistan. You can take, Andre Russell. He didn't play many games because his body fell apart. But that one game, he just pushed his body. He bowled 4 overs or something, and every single delivery was a 90-mile-an-hour bouncer. So that was for brutality. But there was this. I would say like you can basically take Bumrah bowling any over after the 40th over. You can go into any match after and then you can say the thinking. You can see the thinking that is going on in his head, and the control he has in his ability, and to nail Yorkers and slow bouncers and just slowers and whatnot continuously, and going at like only 5 runs and over in the death overs.
Yeah, he's marvelous in the death.
I mean, Stark has had some great spells, like against West Indies. He had a great spell to bring victory to Australia, but he goes for a lot of runs. He takes a lot of risks. Whereas Bumrah, it's just unbelievable. I mean, especially like go back and think about that Afghanistan game, right? Not many people will go back and think of India-Afghanistan. And Shami took the hat trick in the 50th over to finish the game, but it was the 49th over that was beautiful. He bowled 6 Yorkers straight.
Exactly.
I mean, that is, he's like, I mean, how do you bowl? Like, I think the first one was not exactly Yorker. It was a very low full toss, but it was at 92 miles an hour or something. So it's very hard to hit 92 mile full toss unless you're under Russell. And then the next 5 were just pinpoint Yorkers. So that was great. And Bumrah, basically, you could watch him any spell that he bowls. You can see very evolved, smart, intelligent, fast bowler. So I think basically Bumrah spells, as much as I liked, in the semi-final against Australia, Chris Wokes, great spell.
The opening spell.
And Mitchell Stark against England in the league game at Lord's, great spell, opening spell. What else? Shami had a very good. Who was it? They went for 6. They played against, I think, Bangladesh.
England, the opening spell, was it?
No, not against England. I think it was Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or something like that. They had a very, very, very good opening spell. But typically, was it?
But Shami is not very economic in the death over.
I mean, but the new ball he was great, but he's not economical with the old ball because he doesn't have different deliveries. He bowls the same. He doesn't change the length. He could bowl the same pace, but he hasn't changed the length. He bowls good length in the 40th over. Then you're going to go for runs. So Bumrah, I would say, has bowled most number of good-looking spells through this tournament.
True. Right, Subash. One more question we ask all our guests, but let's put it to you as well. So now you know what is a Rellu Katta. We have talked about it. And we usually ask our guest who you think is a Rellu Katta in the Pakistani team. To which Imran Khan. There is a consensus.
I mean, that was like too obvious. Like I don't know how he was even selected. I mean, like he's got a good history. He's got a good record. But that was a long time ago, man. It's like time to on, especially by like holding back somebody like Haris Sohail. Asif Ali. I mean, come on. Why would you play Shoaib Malik? Why would you play Shoaib Malik? Especially in England, where he has a terrible record. I think he averages like 20
or 12 or something.
12
no,
or
it's
20.
less than 20. Yeah, it's 12 or 17. I'm not sure, but it's intense.
It's less than 20. So, and it's not like this World Cup, there was not much assistance for spin, even for specialist spinners. So what's the point of a part-time off spinner? What's the point? Sure, big game experience counts. Experience only counts if you have the cricketing quality behind it. Just because Shoaib Malik, that's like saying Salman Butt, he has 4 or 5 hundreds against India. Doesn't mean you just bring Salman Butt because we are playing, Pakistan is playing India, so let's play Salman Butt. I'm sure it won't happen.
True.
That's the same argument. Like, he once scored 300s against India. Matlab 2019 में भी होगा ये. नहीं होगा. So he is the Rellu Katta of Pakistan.
Undisputed Rellu Katta.
I mean, it's not even close. It's not even close. I mean, if you look at it, technically you can make an argument for Fakhar Zaman, because obviously bowling नहीं करता है. but उसके batting में से भी there was only one inning in the entire tournament. He didn't deliver. Like Pakistan suffered from him not delivering. Imam, Babar, Harris Sohail, even the professor occasionally, or 2 or 3 innings he had.
Occasionally.
So even though he had like horrible way of hitting out, as the professor does, but Fakhar Zaman had a horrible World Cup. I think that has a lot to do with why Pakistan didn't get through, even though they were very close. They should have easily won some of the games. If Fakhar had like 200s in 8 matches or 7 matches, because 2 were washed out. One was washed out.
No, one was washed out.
One was washed out. Sri Lanka had 2 washouts. Pakistan, if he has one big 100 and one, let's say, a 90 or 80, Pakistan would have been in a much better position as a batting unit. And you won't have to like select Rellu Kattas. So
yeah, well, but you have named two.
He had a poor World Cup, but even compared to Shoaib Malik, Fakhar Zaman had a great World Cup.
Yeah, still. That's true. Right, Subash. On the end of it, tomorrow, England versus New Zealand. What's your pick?
I want New Zealand to win, but England's going to win.
The logic says.
I want New Zealand to win, but England will win. Which is too good. Just too good.
They're just too good.
They have too much quality, both batting, bowling, and they've been together for a while. Seems to be that. I can't think of anybody that is not in form in the England side. Maybe you can make an argument for Owen Morgan that he's not in form, but it doesn't matter. Owen Morgan's form doesn't really matter for him. And their bowlers are in form. Archer, Wokes, Adil Rashid had a great game in the semi-final, and Plunkett has been fantastic once he has come in place of Moeen Ali, and Ben Stokes.
Yeah, that was.
So they are the most complete team in the tournament, and it's only correct that the most complete team in terms of skill, quality should win the tournament. So I think they will win it quite easily. But I am obviously rooting for New Zealand.
Yeah, because you want it to be like 1992, right?
No, because I don't care. I don't care for England. It's actually more fun when England lose.
Yeah, it is, right?
Like imagine, like if England lose, everybody like sabko sakoon hota hai. Like in Pakistan, Pakistan or India or in Australia, South Africa, wherever cricket is played, even including England, there will be people saying like, thank God England lost.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to this one British guy when I was in Norway, and he was like, "Yeah, we actually do not support England in cricket. We just don't."
I mean,
you want England to lose.
Yeah, exactly. You want England to lose.
Yeah, that's
so.
Good,
yeah, I want New Zealand to win, but England will win, I think. Yeah.
Right, Subash, we had a very great talk, and बहुत मजा आया आपके साथ एपिसोड करके, बड़ी अच्छी गपशप लगी. So we would like to thank you a lot, and we look forward to meeting you again and again on this podcast. अभी वर्ल्ड कप खत्म हो जाएगा, मगर क्रिकेट खत्म नहीं होगी, so we will have other episodes with other topics, obviously.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Amit. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.